Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Raise your hand online and you will be recognized in order. When called upon, please address your comments to the council and not to the audience. And please remember that by state law, the council is not permitted to undertake any action or discussion on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. If you have any documents you'd like to be distributed to the council, please mail them to the city clerk, 526 C Street, Marysville, 95901. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
For the presentations, no, Mayor.
Oh, I jumped over all the presentations. Well, you know what? It's a big political night, and here I am in a hurry, and I jumped over all that, and I apologize. It's not the first time I've bungled up the agenda. But remember everything I just said when we get to that, okay? Bless y'all. Thank you. We have a presentation, and the Cemetery Commission presentation presented by the Marysville Cemetery Commission.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Vincenzo Carrazza, Public Works Director, and I am here to introduce the Cemetery Commission presentation. As stated in the Marysville Municipal Code, Chapter 2.7, the Marysville Cemetery Commission's mission is to preserve and maintain the Marysville Historic City Cemetery, located north outside the levee off of State Route 70. One of its functions is to perform periodic review of the improvement program for the cemetery. Tonight, the Cemetery Commission is here to give an annual update, its 2023 accomplishments, and their objectives for 2024. Public Works has the pleasure of working closely with these excellent citizens that are right here, who have volunteered for this commission. Please let me introduce Commissioner Marla Pike, who will present the update.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak to the council. So we are, as Vincenzo stated, we are the Marysville City Cemetery Commission members. So with me tonight, I have Victoria Tudor. Eileen Schmidbauer could not be present. Leroy Prendel, Aletha Martin, Jessica Dant could not be present, myself, and Phyllis Smith could also not be present. So basically, we just wanted to give you a summary of our major 2023 accomplishments. We won't go over everything that we've done out there every year, all year long, but we just wanted to give you an update on some of the key things that we do. So one of the things we do is provide a continuous presence at the cemetery. We want to make sure that somebody's out there every day, or not every day, but out there at least twice a week checking on the cemetery. So these pictures are just from a tree that went down last spring. And this was one of the trees that was on the old levee on the north side of the cemetery. It was quite a large oak tree, so Public Works was advised of that, and the guys were good enough to come out and cut this thing up. It was quite large. And ideally, if a tree goes down, we like it to miss all the headstones. This one played along with us and missed all the headstones, so it did not destroy any headstones when it fell. So as I identified here, we identify fallen trees, limbs, graffiti on the crypt. We did have some of that. And we also had a damaged fence a couple of times this year. And we had some water leaks at the well, so those were all repaired as part of our notation to Public Works. We also have been a point of contact for descendants. So people will come to us as we're out there at the cemetery and say, you know, I have my relative here. Can you tell me where they're at? It happens to work that usually we can actually identify and help them get to their ancestor's grave, and they really appreciate that. We also ensure that the existing plaques are clean, that they're readable if possible, and in a good condition for the public. We also partner with Friends for the Preservation of Yuba County History on fundraisers for tombstone repair or headstone repair. So at our April 2023 event, we had 44 guests. But at our October event, we had over 280 guests. It was quite a large turnout at that event. On the next slide, you'll see pictures of when we had a monument repair company come out. We had some obelisks that needed to be put back on their monuments. So in order to do that, it was necessary to have a crane hired to come out and actually lift the obelisks onto the monuments. So what we did here is we had 5 that needed their bases stabilized. So the base at the very bottom that the monument would then go on, and then the obelisk would go on top. Some of this was vandalism that occurred, believe it or not, in the 1950s. So these were obelisks that needed to be repaired for quite some time, and It's like, okay, we'll get to it, and we got to it.
70 years later.
Yeah. We don't like to rush into this stuff, right? So, yeah. So we had, at the north part of the cemetery, by the Chinese section, we have a pile of, we call it the debris pile. And these obelisks were up there. So with Public Works assistance, we moved those, or those obelisks were moved to where they actually needed to be placed back on their monuments. So we were able to do that, and then Rucula Monument Company from Sacramento comes up, and they actually did all the work. They drill them, they pin them, and they glue them together so that they are stable, and we don't have to worry about them coming off again. Of that work, $5,000 was paid for by the city council, saying thank you very much, and then $4,800 of it, I think I'm reading that right, $4,600 or $4,800, I can't read, was from the Friends for the Preservation of Yuba County History. On the next slide, this is one of the obelisks that was repaired. On the left-hand side, you can see what the monument looked like before the obelisk, and then on the right-hand side, that was after the obelisk was replaced.
Now, was the obelisk missing, or was it just down?
It was down, and I can't remember if this was one. Some of them were actually right next to their monument. So they're just laying on the ground. Some of them were actually up in the north section debris pile. So some of them were actually just separated from their monument. Okay, on the next one, we also had a cleanup day with Marysville High School students. That was very successful. I think we had 15 kids that day. It was a lot of fun. We also hosted the Memorial Day celebration with the VFW Post 948. We have a Heritage Rose Garden that we're maintaining. And this is a big one. We transcribed the cemetery, burial, and plot books. So this is a huge book that's available at City Hall. It's 3 by 4. I mean, it's huge. And it's all handwritten. It weighs 38 pounds. The book is gorgeous. It has beautiful handwriting in it. But of course, we're all used now to having everything in Excel. So this burial book, as beautiful as it is, was not, you couldn't filter it, you couldn't sort it, you couldn't, easily go in and look for a certain name. Well, now it's in an Excel format, and it's available off the City of Marysville website. And users can go in, and they can go in there, and they can look up a certain name. They can filter it, they can download it, they can do... they can filter by so many ways. Maybe I want to see how many people died of influenza. I can go in and do that now. The other interesting thing about that is that there were many ways to notate that somebody died, for example, of tuberculosis. So you had consumption, you had tuberculosis. I think one of them was pleurisy. I mean, there were all these different ways and different spellings. So as this book was transcribed, it was transcribed verbatim, but then there was also another column added in more terms that we're used to now, so that it's easier for people to go in and look at that. The middle picture and the bottom picture are the Westwood, the Lewis Westwood plot. And there's a family member that lives in Meridian, and Lyle came over, and he worked with our group, and he worked with a friend of his that's a Mason, and they took down the borders on the plot that were in disarray. They were really crumbling and falling apart. And they put new cement down there, and then they bricked it. I mean, it's just beautiful what he has done there on his family plot. Cemetery volunteer hours. So this is just, we took a couple of us. There were 4 of us that contributed our hours. We had 570 hours between November and January. And if we calculate that at $15 an hour, those 4 volunteers donated $8,550 of time during that time period. We weren't really good about tracking our hours until we decided one day, we really should track that. So we did. Our objectives for 2024. We have 24 headstone bases that we want to have stabilized. And the reason for that, as you can see kind of in this picture here, it's off kilter. And some of them are off kilter because of erosion over years, flooding that has happened in the cemetery, ground squirrel damage, and we also have noticed, even with the road construction from that Caltrans has done on 70, the vibration on the roads. You can see some of the monuments. You can see them tilting on their bases, and you can tell where we hadn't noticed it, but you can see them kind of pivoting. So we need to have some of those shored up. So we have some of those we want to have done. And of course, we also want to host the Memorial Day services and ceremony at the Grand Army of the Republic military plot, and we'll do that with the Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 948. Something that carried over from our 2023 objectives is the cemetery road signage. We still need to look into that and work on having the road signs replaced. And this one we keep going on is performing monthly Saturday cleanup days, inviting high school students and the public to participate in those. We had a really a robust plan prior to COVID, and then during COVID we couldn't do that, and so we want to get that going again with the students and with the public. So we also had on there the transcription of the cemetery burial and plot books, and we completed that, so I just want to notate that was done. And then another thing we want to look into is researching grants for historical cemeteries to see if there are some grants available that we can look into. And we do have a lead on grants. One of our other volunteers has a list of a website with a whole bunch of grants on it. And so I need to get with Gwen and get that link. And then once we have the new cemetery watchman, of course, we'll partner with that individual to watch over the cemetery and report any issues. As far as the annual maintenance and operations for the Marysville Cemetery, our total maintenance costs are at $32,200, and that, as indicated here, is the caretaker abode, the foliage and weeds, water pump and electrical, the roads and the fences, and the lighting, and the total operations $14,763, and that's the caretaker stipend, as well as Public Works Department staff time. So the total maintenance and operations budget for the cemetery, $46,963, which we round up to $50K for any unanticipated expenditures. As far as council assistance, we have some plots that have concrete, brick, or granite borders, and those borders are tilting or leaning. And we just want to look into having those leveraged back into position so that they don't have the risk of falling or causing damage on there. So with that, so we're looking for council support of funding for those projects. That would be greatly appreciated. And we've notated that the repairs might include cement, it might include brick or dirt, as well as perhaps some staff time. We're estimating that the stabilization is $1,000 per, and then estimators for 4 borders being leveraged into position is about $4,000. Headstone repairs, average headstone repair is about $500, so we've been able to get some of those done. And our request for the council is $10,000. Then one other thing we do is we do have tours of the cemetery, and we're at the volunteers are at the cemetery Mondays and Thursday mornings, weather permitting. So we welcome all of city members, all of the city council members, any city staff who want to come out to our tour. We welcome tours, and if you need a different day, we can also arrange that as well. On the next slide is one of our favorite success stories, and this is the blanking Matheson crypt. And you can, on the left-hand side, you'll see the completed crypt. On the center slide is what it looked like before any repairs were done. So that is the top shutter of the crypt, and it's all broken into pieces. And that's actually the interior of the crypt. So that was opened up, the gates were opened up, and then those pieces were brought out and put out on a pallet for a while before Rukula was able to come. We're able to get Rukula out to come and get it. And then, so what you see in the upper right corner is where it's pieced together on a pallet, and then the bottom picture, bottom right, is where it's actually repaired and back on the crypt. And I think that was all I had. Yep. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. When I was a little kid, this would be the late 50s, maybe to 60 or so. You just jump across the levee and go exploring and go through there. And yes, it was a shambles. Yeah. In the 50s, certainly, and I think even deep into the 60s.
Yeah.
And the shape it's in now, the whole community owes you all a great debt of gratitude. I mean, it's fabulous what y'all do.
Through the chair.
Sir.
Ma'am, so thank you for the presentation. I do appreciate the history of the cemetery. It's pretty awesome out there. I do have a question, though. You're saying that, and I remember when we gave the Cemetery Commission $5,000 to assist with the project.
Yes.
You have an annual budget of, you guys estimate, $50,000, and you asked the city for an additional $10,000 in a soft way tonight. So, is that a one-time thing, or is that an annual thing that you're asking for there?
I think the $10,000 is our annual ask for the repairs, for headstone repairs.
On top of your existing budget of 50, you're asking for another 10? I'm just looking for a little clarification there.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
Again, thank you. Thank you all. Okay, we have a Film Commission presentation. Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you for having us tonight. I am Janelle with the Yuba-Sutter Chamber of Commerce, and I have actually brought Sabrina, not Marnie. Today, she will be doing the update on the Film Commission for what's happened in the last year and a half. So, Sabrina?
Thank you all for allowing me to come and give an update. I think this might be actually my first time here, so I'm really excited to be here. Last year, when I was going to be here for our annual, our first year update, I had actually had an accident and I wasn't able to walk. So Marnie came and did our presentation, but I'm going to go over just quickly the numbers for both years so we can catch all up together. So just as a reminder, the Film Commission exists to promote economic development in our community. So we work to bring film productions in from out of the area to, use our locations, hire our local cast and crew, build up stay in our hotels, those kind of things. So we serve as the primary liaison to the film industry. When they're looking to film in our area, they can find us on a variety of platforms as the representative for the Yuba-Sutter region. And again, our efforts are to improve the quality of life for residents here. Next slide, please. So this highlights just some of our services. We are a member of FLIX, which is the Film Liaisons in California statewide. It's a network of over 40 film commissioners throughout the state of California. We help productions that, again, looking for all those resources locally. When they are looking to film in a new area, they don't have time to build the infrastructure. So it's our job to know the community and be able to connect the dots for them so that they can expedite the process. When they're needing to fill out a permit, if they're needing to fill out a permit, those kind of things, it's our job to know what are those requirements. Next slide, please. In addition to that, we help with, or we attend filmmaker events, screenings, different things. We just had Livia's house that filmed here, and we were honored to be, involved in supporting and promoting that, and going to speaking engagements, helping with local film festivals if those things are happening. Anything we can do to support local filmmakers is actually very important, even though it's not the economic generator portion of our position. It does build skills so that when we have those productions coming in, we have qualified people to refer onto those. So having a healthy local filmmaking community is actually quite important. And then, we want to see those productions increase in our community. Next slide, please. So just highlighting some of our contracted services that we have, we, with the Yuba-Sutter Chamber, we have a variety of things that I'm just going to highlight tonight. So we maintain affiliations with a variety of professional industry organizations. Those are listed here. Film USA is a national network of film commissioners. That's a fairly new organization, but we are a member of that and actively involved in events and things that they attend. The California Film Commission is our statewide network, so that's often the first place that productions will go when they're looking to source a location around the state. And Association of Film Commissioners International, they have about 1,100 film commissioners throughout the world. And so we're a certified film commissioner, which means that we've gone through a higher level of training. So when productions reach out to us, they know that we're, qualified in a elevated way, I suppose, than other offices that may not have gone through that. So as I mentioned, Flix, we're involved with that. And the Location Managers Guild International is a network of location managers, which is one of our primary audiences because they're the ones that get the script and decide where to take it. So we want to be involved in that. Our contract states that we will represent Yuba-Sutter at a minimum of 4 industry events and meetings. And so there's a list here, which is far more than 4. And we've been really happy to be able to be present and represent at many industry events throughout the last couple of years. Next slide, please. Again, our contract states, minimum of 2 print and digital campaigns. So some of the elements where we've been featured has been the Location International magazine and Location California magazine. We've also been in Creative Handbook. The statistics are covered on the bottom, but that's okay. It's tens of thousands of industry professionals that, we're able to kind of directly go into their mailbox with the publications or at events that they're attending. So they will distribute these at the main trade shows. Oftentimes we're also there, so it's just kind of multiple touches that we get to have with them. We also have e-newsletters, so those go out to our audience of people that we've built relationships with over the years, and so we highlight different locations and happenings in this area. Next slide, please. So our initial contract asked for us to create a promotional video, and we, as you can see from this list that's on our Yuba-Sutter YouTube channel, we created a variety of different reels to highlight various locations. This area has a lot of variety of resources to offer, so it's really great to be able to promote the diversity of locations that are available here. I would welcome anybody to, go visit that and see, what we were able to capture. Those are used for promotions on social media to target different audiences. It's also when we're promoting and sponsoring events, we can oftentimes use these sizzle reels to highlight the area to showcase, all the assets that are here. Again, we manage social media. We prepare reports. That often requires a lot of follow-up with productions because we're asking for a lot of information. They're very generous, with giving us that because they know they don't pay for our services. We have the support, thankfully from you and other jurisdictions in this area that provide that. So it's important for us to be able to provide you the results, and they know that. So when we ask for the information, we let them know, we're not reporting it individually, we're reporting it as a whole, but it's very important that you know that your efforts, your support is, providing a return. So we're available basically 24/7 when productions have needs because production is not a Monday through Friday 8 to 5 job. So we're available as needed. We also this year added a representative to our board. That's Marnie Sanders. Once she came off the chamber, I wasn't willing to let her go. so she's your voice on the board as well. So next slide, please. Okay, yeah, so again, when we're going and sharing the area, we have a brochure that we've created We also direct people to the website, which shows various locations, local resources, cast and crew, permitting information at the fingertips for productions.
Pardon me.
Yeah.
This takes me back to my venture capital days when a company's making a proposal and looking for capital. And I see all the activities. What have you produced in terms of, say we're an investor, and we are an investor, we've been an investor. What's it done for us?
Yeah.
What do you expect it to do for us? I see all the activities, you're out there, you're engaged, locally you're engaged in the industry. What are where's the dividends? Where's the return on investment?
I believe we're 2 slides away.
Please
We're almost
get
there.
that.
Okay, yeah, no
Please
problem.
get to that.
So this is the brochure. It's a trifold brochure. We can skip to the next slide. Okay, so here's our metrics. So all these efforts come together. Our first year, we were not planning on having anything. That was the infrastructure year. We did actually have a commercial that filmed here, 9 inquiries. 4 shoot days. That year we only reported 6,000 in economic impact, but again, we were not anticipating having anything, so that was kind of gravy. We were growing our social media, had reached out, through our e-newsletter, been in those publications as discussed. So first year, that's the results first year. Second year, if you could move to the next slide. These were our goals for 23-24. We wanted to increase productions, continue to be at the events and all the advertising. We did complete all these goals, and if you go to the next slide, please. So we've had much better results year 2, as expected. So we had 14 inquiries. The types of projects, included features, television, student films, documentaries. We had 14 shoot days, 40 room nights were reported, and that's important because we had Lodging Association funding that helped support this, so we wanted to make sure we were reporting back what was, how many nights people are staying in hotels. And that year, we had an estimated impact of 160,000.
Those four productions filming, right, were those local or were those from outside the area?
Those are from outside the area.
How did you estimate the economic impact?
We ask productions. We ask productions for the information. So we give them a...
Where was the economic impact?
So it's in local hires, lodging...
We're Marysville.
I'm sorry?
We're Marysville. Where was the economic impact?
Yeah, so it's from locations being utilized. It's from caterers being hired. It's from local cast and crew being brought onto projects, from people staying in hotels. I mean, it's a variety. Wherever they're spending money, that's what they're reporting back.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, we were able to grow our social media reach. The website had more traffic this year. Our e-newsletter distributions increased as well. This area specifically is really great about sharing when we have a need. The reach goes crazy on social media, as you can see. So it's been a really supportive community. If you go to the next slide, I think we're talking about what's ahead. So we're going to continue, the next couple of events that we have are 2 Northern California film festivals that we have appointments, working with filmmakers. Pending projects this year, right now we have 3 feature films. They're all independent, so that's not studio features, not the big blockbuster features, but they're independent films, a commercial, a TV pilot, and a documentary. So those are projects that are slated for 2024.
Is that activity from outside the area or is that local activity?
That's activity from outside the area.
All of it?
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. I think next slide, please. Yeah. So, this is my couple of assistants that I have and our contact information. And if anybody, I'm happy to answer any more questions as well.
Any other questions or comments?
I say thank you, and I appreciate the hard work on that. And, I love films, so whatever we could do for Yuba-Sutter in general. Thank you.
Thank you.
And what is the state of our commitment to this project, Jim?
It was 6,500.
Okay. And have we committed, are you looking for future commitments? I mean, I'm trying. You don't put your hand out, it can't get filled up.
Yeah.
Okay. So you'll work with Jim and his team, and okay. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Sir.
I don't know if this is possible for you to retrieve or not, but I'd be curious to know, with some of these productions, where folks are staying, what type of hotels, if they're in a Hard Rock caliber of a hotel, or if they're in hotels in Yuba City, et cetera. We have some hotel development coming in Yuba City, and I'd be curious to know how that's going to impact us in the future, or in Marysville. So if you could send a memo out or something along those lines.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks.
I will tell you, productions stay in all levels because the budgets all vary. So, they might stay in a Motel 6 or a Hilton, so it's anything. It's just dependent on production budget most of the time. They'll stay at the nicest hotel they can afford. Most is what it is. Yeah. And oftentimes, when you get into the studio features and you're dealing with the A-listers, a lot of times they do require the upper end hotels.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Next is my next door neighbor, Mr. Gordon Tom. I've got 2 books. Maybe you've seen these books. There's 3 books I've seen that have been published on the history of Marysville. 2 of them are on the history of the Chinese community in Marysville. And Gordon, I don't know if you are specifically referenced in those, but I know one of your brothers or cousins was a big part of at least one of them. And if Gordon is not the resident expert on the history of BOK-KAI and Chinatown in Marysville, I don't know who is.
Don't give me that much credit.
Well, I'm giving it to you, so you better be good. There you go, it's working.
Testing. Honorable Mayor, City Council members, and my name is Gordon Tom, and I reside in 1117 D Street in Marysville. And my topic for today is I'm going to be talking about the Chinese coming to America. Is it working? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we hear every word.
They're coming to America, and the Chinese coming to Marysville, and also Chinatown in Marysville. I can't memorize all this. I'm going to have to read this.
Okay.
The first documented proof of the Chinese arriving in America is after the Revolutionary War in 1785. 2 men and 1 woman are reported to have landed in San Francisco in 1843. And then here, in 1850, there are 4,025 Chinese recorded as being in the United States. In 1860, Yuba County registered a population of 1,781 Chinese present. In 1870, Yuba County Chinese population peaked at 2,337. And they must have all came down from the hills when they counted that. And now we're going to have a little slideshow here. What you see here is Marysville, and in 1855, and then the next one is you see the water there, and we didn't have the levee. Guess what would happen? And a little bit more about my background here so that you'll understand. My background is that my grandfather came here from China in 1851, the same year as when Marysville officially became a city. And he came there when he was 13 years old with an older brother, and he came for the gold. And so my grandfather mined all the way up to Virginia City, Nevada. And I do tours, and the younger generation don't understand that because they figure that they got Uber, bus, cars, and I said, no, they walked it. And so it took my grandfather 9 years to go to Virginia City, and he came back to Marysville, and he decided not to go back to China. And the older brother went back to China, and so he raised his family in Marysville. Our home is still there. It's owned by Lauren and Helen Perkins now. And I sold it in 1969, so I'll be showing that. Okay. This is what the Chinese came for, and this is what the gold miners look like. And this is back in probably 1850s. And I don't know if you can see that sluice box, but actually the Chinese invented that, because most of the people are still using the pan. And see all those little cities there, those are all the main Chinese communities up all in Northern California. And but the main ones here at that time was Marysville, naturally San Francisco, Oroville, Weaverville, Chico, and then and the smaller ones. When they say city, it could be just a camp, one building, one block, and so when I say from here, when they start walking, the first stop would be Timbuktu. The second stop would be Smartsville, and then they just keep going up. They stay there until maybe 2-3 weeks, and then they keep moving. And then a lot of them got either chased out, and so therefore, and the gold miners, Chinese gold miners, were here by the. They weren't owned by anybody, and they were here by themselves. And so, next one. And this is my family here. My grandfather, my grandmother, and all 9 children. They're all born upstairs in 310 First Street. And and that picture was taken in 1906. And the little baby down below, right below my grandfather's feet there, she was born in 1908. So what happened is that there was 5 sons, 4 daughters, and she was born in 1908. So all the daughters already gone and left and gotten married. And so the baby, what they did was they cut her out and pasted it on there. So, and next, and that's my grandfather that in front of his store, in front of 310 First Street. And you can see the sidewalk is all wood, and it wasn't paved yet. The street wasn't paved yet. And when I show this picture during my tour, the only thing they're interested in is what's he smoking? So, next. Okay, and this is the store, my grandfather's store in there, and my uncle there to the left is Brian Tom's father, the little baby, my aunt, and then my other uncle, and then my dad is to the right, and my cousin in the back. Now we're getting to the real Chinatown here. This is 1900. We're looking east in Chinatown. As you can see, there's no pavement or anything. Next. And this is the only picture I really have without the levee. And our house is right in the middle there. And right to the right of it is called Maiden Lane. That's where you walk out there, and all the steamers would come in and from San Francisco, Sacramento. and then down below it is called Oak Street. Next. And this here is looking north of Chinatown. Next. And I'm just going to show you this because of the structure and the architect. And Lauren Perkin told me that I didn't know. And he said there's French and German architecture. So, next. And this is when I grew up, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s. And where the white car is right in front of our home. I sold the place in '69. Next. And this is the neighborhood. The Guadalajara down there with the green, before Silver Dollar.
Yeah, it was a Guadalajara Cafe, wasn't it?
Huh?
Guadalajara Cafe?
Yeah.
Yep.
Next. And then before that, it was M&M Trading Post. And to the right of it, that's actually our highway.
Well, that's the D Street Bridge, right?
Pardon?
That's the entry to the D Street Bridge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And do you remember that far back?
I do.
Next.
Old.
And this is before Tower Theater. And it's called the Marysville Theater. And when Tower Theater came in, as a kid, we used to walk across the street and buy a ticket for 25 cents, and then that was a lot of money then. And you get an entry, popcorn, and a drink. Next. And this is First Street, and where the museum is, and the Chinese school, and the spicery. Before it was the spicery. Yeah. Next. Same picture, but it actually got a title. And also, where the levy commissioner is, to the right of it, all those buildings are all knocked down. It's just lots. Next. And this is the famous Mama's Place. Our family actually grew up in that place because the famous story about that place is the one dish that they had was a bowl of rice, gravy and beef, and 2 boiled eggs on it for 50 cents. So the whole family grew up there. Next. And this is the famous Lotus Inn. And that's the kind of a fancy restaurant where all the VIPs went, the celebrities went, a lot of movie stars went there, and that's the place to be seen. And that's the sign. And that's, if anybody knew Mr. Bing Ong, him and I used to bartend. Next. And this is the BOK-KAI Temple. And the first one was built in 1854, and it was down on B Street and First, where the levy commissioner is. And that either got destroyed, and then in 1880, the current one was built. And next. And today, they still attract thousands of people that come here. A lot of people don't realize that, but this is the only temple like this now is in the world, right there. And we have it here, in the whole world. Because when the communists took over in 1948, they tore out all the temples, tore out all the schools and everything. So how I knew that is because I get a lot of tourists come in and visitors and go on my tour. They're college age, 30, 40 years old, and I talked about this, and they never heard of it before. So I know that they don't have it in China. Next. And these are the worshipers. And our temple is a Taoism, which means we worship many saints. So, and our main saint in there is a god, and there's the BOK-KAI god, which is the northern water god. And next, and this is the first dragon. And when it has a parade, and this is, in fact, we were the only one in the whole United States to have the dragon. So we loaned it out to Chicago, New York, Seattle, Chico, and so forth. So today we have the head redone, refurnished. This is in our Chinese the Temple's Museum, if you'd like to see it. And next, and this is coming down C Street. Next, and today. And you're going to be this next Saturday. You'll be seeing it. And the whole trick of this right here is teaching. Years ago, we had special people training the dragon dancers, and that's called a coil. And it's very hard to do when you have 75 people doing it. And to run a dragon. Is 175 feet long, 150, 175 feet long, and it takes about 175 people to run it. And 75 in there running it, and then the others outside, when they get tired, they replace them. Next. And this is one of the earlier bomb days, and as you can see. And it's 1900. I'm going to give you a real brief history of it. And back in China, is a celebration of the water god, and so they go out and catch the ring for good luck. Today, as it changes, then they got money involved and so forth. Now we kind of use it or they use it for a money raiser is what it is. So a lot of people come out and watch it. They don't know what they're watching. And what they're doing is they're fighting. All they come out to see is a fight. So what they do is, now when they catch the ring, every ring has a number on it, which is a lucky number. And also, I'd like to mention that the Chinese don't believe in bad luck. So what they believe in is good luck, better luck, and the best of luck. So, and a lot of the elders are really very superstitious people. Next. And this is back in the 50s. As you can see, the clothes are changing. Next. And this is really current. They're really getting into it now. So, okay, next. And that's the Chinese school. And we just furnished it, remodeled it inside about 4 or 5 years ago. And next. And this is from the second Chinese school, and these are the children that used to. This is the generation about 15 to 10 years ahead of me, and so when that was the biggest and the closest Chinese community at that time, and when they left to go to school, none of them came back. So next, and this right here is behind the school. The building is called the hospice house. Way back when, the Chinese, a lot of they only brought over the single men. They didn't bring the women over. They weren't allowed, and so there's a lot of single men. And the idea was to come here, get the gold, go home, go back to China, and that's what they wanted. But a lot of them, in fact, most of them didn't find any gold and so forth, so they didn't have no money to go home, and they're stuck here. So that's the hospice. That the Chinatown took care of our own. So that's the hospice that took care of them until they passed. And all the restaurants in town would donate the food and everything to take care of them. Next.
How's that going on that building? I know they're doing some work to keep it in better shape.
Huh?
There were some folks were working on that building.
With vandalism, we're tearing it down and so forth. And Mr. Larry Bird was real instrumental in kind of rebuilding it.
Larry's a good guy.
Right. The old one was Old Sing Building. This is the new one today. Next. And that's the entrance. And that's the altar. And just a little brief history about that. And you have two tong. You used to have three tong, but now you used to have two tong, which is Sui Sing Tong and Hop Sing Tong. And Hop Sing Tong is still alive and active. And the Sui Sing, that's the one I belong to. We don't have enough members, so they closed the chapter down and moved us to Sacramento. So it's called Marysville/Sacramento chapter. And but since I'm the only member left, there's two of us left, and so I'm kind of a caretaker for the building. And also the altar there.
That's the one on First Street.
Yes. Yeah. So the altar there, meaning if any organization, Chinese organization, when they still have the altar there, which they come in every year to do their worship, and that means the building is still alive. So therefore, it's not a dead building. And next, and that's me giving my tour, like I'm doing right now. Next, and I'm doing my tour of the temple. I've been doing this for 40-something years. I finally got Mr. Rick Lim to take my place. Next, and that's me again. And this is me in 1954, hitting the drum in front of the Sui Sing building, and with my friend Jerry Lee. And when he grew up, he owns the Lee's Canton restaurant. Now he's retired. So I think that's it, isn't it? And that's it.
What a wonderful presentation. Bravo, bravo, bravo.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for listening.
Gordon, you're a natural. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. Oh, that was goodness. Okay, everybody remember what I said about the consent calendar? No, that's the one we're putting off. Madam Clerk, are we still at no comments, public comment?
I have no public speakers.
Thank you, ma'am. It's okay. Okay, we move to the consent calendar. All matters on the consent agenda are considered routine and are therefore approved by one motion, unless a council member or the city manager first requests that matter be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and action. And as was mentioned earlier, item number 5 has been moved to the consent agenda. Correct? Thank you, Madam Clerk. What is the will of the council?
So moved.
We have a motion.
I'll second it.
And a second. Any further discussion? None noted. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Madam Clerk, that was unanimous. Okay, we now move to the discussion and action calendar. All matters in this section of the agenda are discussed and will be acted on individually. Members of the public may request to speak on any of these items for up to 3 minutes. Speaker's card, if you're here and you'd like to speak, get that from the clerk. If you're online, raise your hand and you will all be recognized in order. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone wishing to speak? Action and discussion out. Discussion and action calendar.
I'm sorry, Mayor. Each action has its own.
Excuse me. You know what? I was so taken by Gordon's presentation, I just lost it. Oh, Lord. Let me read the item first. Thank you, Madam Clerk. The item is item number 6. Award a bid for a fire station accessory building replacement project. And the recommendation is to pass a motion to adopt an appropriately numbered resolution awarding a contract in the amount of $338,378 with United Building Contractors, Inc. for the construction of the Fire Station Accessory Building Replacement Project, contract number 2302, based on the improvement plans and contract documents. Oh, and Gordon got away. There's a lot of eights in that bid number. The Chinese believe in good luck. 8 is the lucky number. Whenever I did business in China, all proposals, I had a lot of 8s in it, and we won every one of them. Anyway, and Mr. Kyle Hegstrom, Chief Kyle Hegstrom, please. You can stay at your chair. You can go up there, whatever you want to do.
Mayor, City Council, again, thank you very much for having me up here today. I come before you to discuss the new building that we'd like to purchase for the Marysville Fire Department. Again, I have to give a lot of the credit to Mr. John Mallon and Mr. Jim Shad on all their effort on this. This building has been in discussion for the last, I'd say, at least year and a half since the purchase of the Type 3 engines, the new engines that Council since bought for the department. Just with the need for larger equipment and the current size of the existing building, we come forward to council to request to replace this building so we can better house the equipment and the necessities of the organization. So I'm here to answer any questions and discuss anything else you'd like to.
First, we'll allow for public comment. Any public comment on this matter, ma'am?
Not on this item, Mayor.
Noting none. Anyone on the council want to comment? Question?
I have no questions, Chief. I just want to thank you and the staff for making this happen. It's been a long road. Last I heard, though, this is not going to be through any sort of CBG. This is out of our budget, right?
This is out of our budget, and we expect that the D10 Hallwood Fire District will be contributing as well.
Thank you, and thank you, staff.
Yeah, the District 10 Hallwood Board, just to elaborate a little more on Mr. Shad's comment, they are very interested in assisting the city with this building. They were just waiting for some final numbers to bring back to their board to have a further discussion. So we're just waiting to have a meeting with them since they meet quarterly.
The full amount we have budgeted in this year, we actually budgeted $400,000. So we were pleased to see the bid come in significantly lower than that amount. And then we'll be working with D10 to Chief Hegstrom will be working with D10 to work through the board action that they'll.
Chief, real quick, is this a full rebuild or remodel or tear down, build new?
Correct. Yeah, it's going to be a full tear down. They're going to tear down the existing ancillary structure that's there. The numerous storage buildings will be one solid building with an entrance and exit off a tent, so we can go out the back side of the station with the brush. Oh. And then, again, with larger bay doors, 14-foot high, so we can house the larger equipment, which will help us with the hazmat and other apparatus that we'd like to house in this building.
You guys are getting rid of the old mansion, huh?
Getting rid of the old mansion, yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
A significant portion of the cost is going to be the pad and entrance, the groundwork below the building. It's a prefab building, but there's quite a bit of demo and construction, concrete construction that has to be done.
Man, I slept in that mansion in the 97 floods. I'm gonna miss that old little cold metal building.
And it's met the needs of the organization for a lot of years. It's just the height of apparatus, length.
Without a doubt. I totally agree. Thank you for your work and everybody's work on this. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. Any further questions or comments? What's the will of the council?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And seconded. Any further comments? None. Noting none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Madam Clerk, that was unanimous. Okay, item number 7 on the agenda, update of the engineering standards details. Okay. Recommendation, pass a motion to adopt an appropriately numbered resolution updating the engineering standards details, and 2, authorizing the city manager or his designee to make periodic future updates to the engineering standards details. Mr. Vincenzo Carrazzo, Public Works Director, please.
Great. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Vincenzo Carrazzo, Public Works Director. Also with me is John Mallon, our city engineer. So the item before you is adopting a revised March 2024 Engineering Standards Detail Book. It's an attachment 2 in your staff report. It's superseding previous editions and authorizing the city manager or designee to make future changes to the book. Of note is Standard Detail 502, which deals with how we restore our pavement after a trench is dug in our streets. So I'll have that. It's in your attachment too, but we're just focusing on Standard 502 right here. As you know, staff has executed several major street paving projects, most recently the 2023 Measure C SB1 pavement project. And in late 2023, the council adopted a street cuts moratorium to protect the new pavement from being cut up, for example, due to utility repairs or installation. There are exceptions for emergencies, of course. Our previous Detail 502 treated pavement restoration of a trench cut the same whether it's an old street or a recently paved street. So this new detail gives better guidance on surface restoration. For example, if you look at the very top right example, where we will require the whoever is cutting up the street to pave the entire width of the roadway, curb to curb, if they do it within the street that we recently paved. If it's an older roadway that's more than 5 years old, then you kind of see the sort of the darker requirement, which is simply the trench, overlay the trench, and also 3 feet outside of each. So about 8 feet of overlay. So one is if it's a new street, pave the entire width, curb to curb. If it's an older street, give us about 8 feet of overlay. Make sense?
So this is to inspire those who want to do work on our streets to do their planning very carefully.
Yes. Otherwise, if it's a street cut moratorium street, which we have the list of it online, then we basically want a new paved road again.
And how long after, now Cal Water, it wasn't that many years ago, it's probably 3 years ago. You recall they were doing 12th Street near your office and 12th Street all the way from D almost to H, I think. And that is a terrible job of repair. There's waves. It's right next to your office. You know where it is.
Yeah, there's actually 2 trenches in 12th Street. The one that's in poor shape that's the issue is actually an old storm drain trench from a city project. And the one that Cal Water did, they actually did a pretty good job on it for the most part.
Oh, okay. Well, then, shame on y'all.
Everybody points to that when I drive down it at least twice a day, every day. So, yeah, the storm drain trench, part of the problem with that one is they used a cement backfill on it, and they went a little too high with the cement backfill so that the asphalt over the top of it was only about 1.5 inches. Yeah. And over time, it's kind of like popped off in several locations. And that's kind of what there's another complementary detail to this 502 that's 501 that has to do with how you do the trench backfill that also complements, trying to do a better job.
I guess the message then is streets are a big enough challenge for any city, and Jim lectured me on this in an informative lecture about how catching up on it is something you hope for.
Well,
it's a tough thing to do.
Constant task of
the cost, exactly. And this mitigates, these standards updates mitigate the problems presented to the city when a third party, be it PG&E or the water company, whoever, goes in and does something. They're going to be held to tighter standards. Now, how long are they held to standards? How long is there a guarantee on the quality of their work, and how long is it for? There is one.
Well, when we do new construction, there's a 1-year warranty that anytime during that period that the contractor would have to come back. But as far as encroachment permits, we don't have a warranty period within it. But typically, as part of it, when they're doing the backfill, we require them to do compaction testing, which negate some of the settlement concerns. And we actually do have we don't want them to basically backfill and pave the next day. You want at least 30 days in between when you've backfilled the trench and you do your final paving, so that if there is any settlement, that it usually occurs during that period when there's traffic over it. And during that period, they have to maintain the cutback, which is you see that a lot of times where it looks like asphalt, but it's actually like a cold patch mix that they put over the top of the trench in the intermediate period.
So, if I understand this correctly, basically we are updating standards to assure higher quality streets.
Yes. And during the process, I actually did the details when I was a staff member of the city back in 2000 under Dave Lehman. And there's a lot of other little minor things that have changed during that period of time that necessarily hadn't been updated in some of the other details, just like the pipe type material that we use for a couple of things and some of the ADA standards on the ramps. And we went ahead and updated those while we're focusing on these two details as well. So it's basically issuing a whole new standard detail package, So
Vincenzo, is there a range of standards? We're updating standards here, right?
Yeah.
Is there a range of standards out there that cities adopt? And is there a range, and we fit in the middle, we're on the stringent side, or we're lax? I mean,
for you talking about for this particular item?
Well, yeah, for streets in particular.
Well, we haven't been updating this standards book for quite a while, so I think we're a little bit on the lax side. We really need to have more engineering involvement and also inspection. So this is one attempt to kind of bring it up to modern day standards, especially with the 502 and also our paving. We have a new contract with MHM, and they also inspect for us. So back to your question about earlier, when we get an encroachment permit, usually their inspection time is included in that fee. So then there'll be our eyes out there to make sure that the utilities and even ourselves, when we dig up a street, that we follow our own standards.
Jim, I'm just trying to...
Yeah, I think in our discussions that this is very close to the Yuba County standard.
Yeah. This is the new trench detail is similar to the Yuba County. I think we're a little bit wider on our what they call as a T grind. So what you do is when you do the initial trench, you go all the way up with the backfill in the trench, and then you do a little bit of additional full structural section on either side of the trench to help kind of bridge it. And then what they do is a T grind, so you grind into the asphalt beyond that width of both the trench and the full structural section, so that it seals the structural section and also mitigates the surface over the top of it. And we have this real similar standard to the newly adopted Yuba County standard, but ours is a little bit wider on the T.
And the focus was on this detail. There's multiple standard details in here. I think on this one, we were behind the curve. Now we're towards the top of the curve now. Not the most stringent, but
pretty
fairly
close.
stringent. Yeah.
And also the council adopting the second part of the resolution allows the city manager or designee to update it as we go along. So I think in the past, for example, we had water standards, but the city doesn't have water utilities. So then that was updated a while ago. And so as we go along and we have new technology or new standards from other agencies, we can adopt that as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Any questions from the public? Or
No public comment tonight,
No
Mayor.
questions or comments? Council? Noting none, what's the will of the council?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
And second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vincenzo, thank you. John,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, next item, number 8. Budget amendments to the fiscal year 2023-2024 adopted general fund budget, and the recommendation to pass a motion to amend the fiscal year 2023-24 adopted general fund, street fund, and wastewater fund budgets with the proposed adjustments to revenue and expenditures as presented. And our presenter is Ms. Jennifer Straczynski, Finance Director for the City of Marysville. Ma'am.
So, good evening, Council and Mayor. Mayor and Council. So tonight I'm here to bring our mid-year budget review. We're actually just going to go through a slide presentation that's going to go through an overview of where we're at as of December 31st, because we need to draw a line in the sand, and then just a very, very quick overview of the budget adjustments. So this hopefully should just be a fairly quick overview that we'll go through. So just want to let you know on this too, this report is prepared on a cash basis, which means that revenues are recognized when received and expenses when they're spent. So as we go through, I'll be explaining that some accounts may look like they're a little bit behind on collecting revenues, but that's only because we have there's a lag time from some of the revenues that come in. So I'll explain those as we go, but this is a cash basis as of December 31st. So we'll go to the next slide. So this one's just a very overall where we're at with our general fund. So our general fund is our main operating account for the city. So this does not include any capital or any one-time expenditures. This is purely our ongoing operating revenue and expenditures for the year. I'll be doing some more detail in further slides to actually go through some further detail, but this is just the over. So as you can tell, our revenues are budgeted around $14.15 million, and our expenditures are budgeted at about $13.54. So if we're looking at our overall operating, we do run in the black when it comes to this section. The purple section, the smaller, is what has actually come in to date. So right now in our revenue, we brought in about $5.5 million, which is about 39%. And then on our expenditures, we've spent about 6.36, which is about 47% of our budget through the first 6 months. So next slide. So this next slide has the same numbers as the prior slide, but as you've noticed, there's a little bit of green and there's a little bit of orange that's been added. So what this represents is our operating, and then the orange and the green is our one-time expenses. So we wanted to separate it out so we can see what we do on an ongoing basis and then where our one-time is at. So with that, in the revenue, we have $1.7 million of revenue that's one-time. That is mainly from grants that come through, and about $225,000 is for a one-time revenue that came in. But overall, one-time revenues are always grant revenues that come in and out. If we're looking on the expenditure side, we have about $8.52, which is obviously a very, very large amount. So what we were doing this year, I'm going to make sure I have my numbers right, is that the city had committed $3.7 million in one-time street projects. And this was using existing reserves that were brought to us through Measure C. We also are using about $2.16 million of ARPA funds that we had received in prior years. And we're doing marketing grants with that, fire, radio coverage, and deferred maintenance to city facilities. There's about $1.1 million in one time, which would be our, like the apparatus building for the fire department, our general plan, items like that. And then about $1.55 million of that is in grants. So, and I do want to say in our expenditures so if we look at our revenue, we've only brought in about $140,000 in revenue. That is because, again, the majority of the one-time revenue is in grants. In grants, we have to expend first, then we ask for the request, and then you have a 2 to 4 month lag time. So it always comes in much slower than what we're expending. And then the $3.7 million overall, about $2.79 million of that was for the street project over in East Marysville. So that has been accomplished and paid for before December of last fiscal year. So our next slide. So here we just kind of wanted to go through our top general fund revenue sources. So between these 4 revenue sources, it brings in about 75.1% of our ongoing revenues. So if we're looking at the cannabis tax, we're actually right around 50.8%. So again, we are on target for that. I do want to note that this is actually only 5 months. Our first month that came in July was for the month of June, so it's been accrued back to the last fiscal year. So with bringing that in, cannabis is actually trending slightly higher than we originally predicted. And as we've been watching the trend, it's actually been going up a little bit. It is stabilizing, but we have not seen a decrease in it for the past 2 years, and we continue to monitor that revenue source. Property taxes on the far side, again, are also at 50.7%, which is where we expect it to be. With property taxes, we normally get our first payment in December. Sometimes it comes in January, a little bit behind schedule. And then we get our second and third payments, the rest of our payments normally on a May-June time basis. So property taxes trending actually right on target, a little bit higher than we're expected. So there is going to be some adjustments during mid-year for that. So for sales tax, so we have two. We have our sales and use tax, and we have our Measure C tax. So if we're looking at a regular sales tax, we've only brought in about $850,000 of our $2.93 million budget, which is around 29%. With that, we receive it on a monthly basis. However, there's a 2-month lag time. So within our first 6 months, we've only received 4 months of revenue due to the fact that it's 2 months behind every time we get a payment from the state. And then on our Measure C, we're around 34.3%, which again is due to that lag time that's coming through. So there is an update that I do want to share is the city manager and I have been talking with HDL, who is our contractor who helps us with our sales tax estimates. As of last week, we are actually finding out that sales tax trends have slowed down, and there is a little bit, there will be a little bit of a decrease in our overall budget. We're still working through those numbers and working with a consultant on that. So we're not looking at less than prior years. We're looking at this year actually has leveled out, and they're predicting very little growth for this rest of this fiscal year for sales tax, and then slow growth coming into future years. So what that comes into numbers is right new projections that we're working on is our regular sales tax about $190,000 less this fiscal year, and our Measure C around $100,000, which is a total of about a $300,000 reduction in sales tax that we believe is going to come in.
Quick question. You say both of the sales and Measure C tax, we're only seeing 4 months of the, not the full 6 months?
Correct, that is correct.
Okay. So 4 months, and I ran those numbers, because that's a third. And so 3 times the 1.39 ends up just a little bit above the 4.05 you've got up there, 4.17. But 3 times the 0.85 is only 2.55, so that would be running behind.
So what happens with the sales tax is so we get it every quarter. So the first 2 months is an estimate. And then what happens on that final month for the third month is a catch-up. So normally when we get sales tax payments in, we get a smaller amount, and then a large catch-up. A small, and a large catch-up. So we've only seen a small catch-up, and a small. So we haven't brought in enough of the revenue from the second quarter to substantiate that.
So you're comfortable
correct.
that the 2.93 is still a good number?
I would say it's probably going to be around $190,000 less than that. And that's where we're doing our further research on.
Both Measure C and the Bradley Burns tax are anticipated to be lower than the initial projection from HDL. And the Bradley Burns, we're talking, what's the amount that we're hearing?
For Bradley Burns is around $190,000, and then Measure C is around $110,000.
So Measure C was less impacted than the Bradley Burns tax. That being said,
that makes me worry about the Bradley Burns calculation.
Yeah, we will be looking
at
that
because Measure C is a hard number, and the other is massaged by Sacramento.
So I know Jennifer's already made some inquiries on how that works, and we will be providing that information.
That'll be interesting to learn more about.
Yes, we will dig into that. But the point I want to make is that though the projection is lowered, we're not seeing a decrease in revenue on those taxes. We're just seeing a slowing down of the increase, if that makes sense. So we were expecting more revenue. It's more than last year still, but it's not as much as we thought we were going to get. And that is just, I think Jennifer has some information to share, but that's a result of the general economy nationwide.
Correct. So it is a statewide, and I've been in a few classes the past few weeks, and it's just now starting to come out. Reports are coming out. So, and that's why a lot of these weren't necessarily all the way updated for that, because a lot of these numbers were prepared in the past few weeks, and then this new information came in. But what we've been told, and actually what I've been doing research on too, is that they're basically saying there's going to be little or no growth the remaining of this fiscal year, and then slow growth again for 24, 25. And a lot of that is due to lower gas prices. So not necessarily that there's less fuel being used, but we've also had a very nice influx because gas prices were so high for the past few years. And as they come down, we get a little bit less than that. And if we look at our top 20 producers every quarter, fuel is always on that. So if fuel changes a lot in price, the amount of our Measure C and Bradley burdens does change. The other part of that is there's higher interest rates, and then just overall there's a little bit lower consumer confidence. So there was a lot of money that was pushed into the economy with COVID funds. And I know we're still slightly talking about that, but the reality is most of that money's been spent, and now people are starting to feel in the past year, 6 months, the difference in the fact that that extra money's not there. So they're being a little more protective of the money, which is a normal trend. And then normally what happens, people start getting comfortable in a year or so, economy's still doing okay, things are good, and then they start spending a little bit more again. So we're seeing that correction from all that extra COVID money that was pumped in. We just didn't know when that correction was going to happen, and we're now getting the trends that it's starting to happen now.
Jennifer?
I know it's a lot of information on the sales tax.
I don't know if I missed something here, but I'm trying to figure, why did the sales tax and the Measure C tax not drop equivalently percentage-wise?
Because
or how could that be possible?
Because they're not, sales tax is not, one item may not be subject to both types of sales tax. So it depends, because if it comes out, I have a whole graph on this, and I really wish I had it with me because I'd be able to explain it to you a little bit better. But if it comes from an outside of the state, it might not necessarily been subject to Bradley Burns, but it would be subject to Measure C, or vice versa. It would go into the county pool, and we would get a portion of that, but then we get the full Measure C. So it really depends on where the source of revenue is coming from and where the endpoint is. And I do have a memo that goes through a lot of examples because I had to create that for myself to be able to see it. But it explains how not every item is taxed the same.
And on the cannabis, we projected just $750,000.
We had, because I think up to a few years ago we were around 850, 900, and we had fell a little bit below those projections. So there was right around the peak of COVID, cannabis went up, and then it went down. And so we were actually being pretty conservative with it because we didn't have a full year and a half, 2 years of information. We're now at the point that we have at least 2 years of solid either stabilization or a little bit of an increase that I feel more comfortable to come to you now and in the future and say, let's look at raising that increase a little bit.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So it was just more the conservative nature of how we budget. And again, property taxes we're doing fine with that. Actually, the county says that we're going to bring in a little bit more than what we originally predicted. So that is our overall top revenue generators. So if we go to our next slide. So this is just a few of our top expenditures by department. Again, this is an operational slide. This does not have any one-time costs in here. So obviously, as we all know, our police department, which is police, dispatch, and animal control, is our largest budget. And right now they're at about 41.1%. And this is across the board for everybody. Again, we're talking about there's a lack of time in sales tax. When it comes to payroll, our payroll we paid in July is for the month of June. So we have to take everything we paid in July and move it back a month when we do the audit. In saying that, there's only 5 months of payroll in everybody's department. So we would expect departments to be 43% at this point because they're doing 5 months of payroll, not a 6 months. So from a budgetary standpoint, they're right on track. Same thing with the fire department. They're at 45.8%. And they're just due a little bit higher because there was some one-time expenses that happened at the beginning of their fiscal year that needed to be taken care of. So fire and police are right where I would expect them to be. Under general expenditures, almost the full budget is expended. So this would be, our main thing in there is our liability insurance, our auto insurances. It affects multiple departments, and therefore it's not designated to a specific department. But those type of insurances are paid up front in July as a one-time lump sum. So you're going to see this budget pretty much being fully expended in the first month. And then same thing with parks and facilities, is they're tracking about a 54%. They're a little bit higher, but they also had a lot of projects that they've been doing and taking care of throughout the city, which you can always tell when you see the parks and the other things that are being done. So the next slide, this is where the chart gets a little bit larger. Again, we still have our ongoing, but we wanted to add in and let you guys know where a lot of the one-time expenditures are being spent. So in the police department, again, you can't really see the lines, but you can see this 0.6 and this 0.5. Those were for approved one-time expenditures for LPR cameras and then the radar units in the patrol cars. So those have been expended for the year. The fire department, you see around $430,000. Nothing's been spent. That, again, is your building that you just approved. So that will be spent in the second half of the year. But that was the one-time expenditures within the fire department. I'm going to skip over to facilities and parks first. That one is around $240,000, and that one is for all the Ellis Lake expenditures that we were bringing forth. And those, I always have to read on these because I don't always remember all the terms from for City Manager Shad. And again, that's for our renewed focus on Ellis Lake. So that was for water testing, our installation of equipment. We're doing materials for ongoing phosphorus treatments and measuring lake levels, we're measuring the levels of the water quality, topographical studies, and the development of a master plan. So as you can tell, there's budget for that. We have started spending on it around $90,000 so far spent towards that project. So our largest is the nice big green bar under general capital. So what that is the $6.1 million is what we were talking about in the prior slide of our one-time budgets. So these are for interfund transfers that will go to capital projects.
What was it spent on?
Oh yeah, that's the next part. So this one right here, this is the more fun part. Is again, this was for our street projects over in East Marysville that we have. It's for the 14th Street project and A Street, which has not been completed, but that's on our list for this current fiscal year. It's also to finish our general plan. That should be done, we're looking around July, August is where we're at. Our Gavin Park project that we finished already. Part of it hasn't been spent as our radio improvement project, and then again, our deferred maintenance of city properties. So with this, the transfers happen once it's been expended. So anything, the $2.93 million is once we expend a budget or we did the street project in East Marysville, we'll take that money and we'll transfer it into the capital fund. So all money stays within the general fund until it's spent, and then we transfer it out to cover the expenses. So we have spent, roughly $2.9 million in one-time expenditures as promised to the citizens through our budget process. So if we go on to our next. So this is my last-minute boring slide I kind of added in. It's a lot of numbers, but what I wanted to do is now that we've gone through the general fund this is a snap overview of our mid-year budget adjustments that we're requesting. So instead of going through a very long list, in everybody's packets there and online there's a report, plus there's the detailed analysis where all these numbers came from that we're requesting. So this is just an overview snapshot, so we don't have to go through every one of them. We did break it out again on what was an operational or an ongoing revenue source and expenditure, and then what is a one-time. So again, if we look at revenues, we're asking about a $542,000 adjustment, and expenditures around $647,000. So it's about a net decrease of about $105,700. So I do want to show on that, if you look under operational, under revenues and expenditures, we're still seeing overall there is more expenditures coming in than more revenues coming in than the expenditures. However, we do have a lot more one-time costs that are coming to you that are listed out in here if there's further detail. So what that overall means is we also wanted to break this out again too. If we looked at a budget summary, if we just looked at our overall operating revenue less our operating expenditures, we're at about $806,000. Given that will be adjusted by probably about $300,000 because of sales tax. Again, those numbers haven't been reflected yet as we research, but we're still operating in the black if we're looking at our overall operating income. Where you see the difference is our one-time revenues less our expenditures is around $7 million. So this is to show you that we're not operating in a structural deficit at all. We're actually doing one-time planned expenditures from reserves that we have through Measure C and the ARPA funds that we've committed to use. So we wanted to show you the differences between those. So this is a summary of what we're requesting for tonight. So that is overall for the general fund. So if we go to the next slide, these are two really quick slides. I won't go through too much of it, but just our overall gas tax fund. Again, this is our street fund. This has the same, when you're looking at the HUDA tax, the highway user tax, or the SB1 funds. HUDA tax is 5 months. SB1 fund is 4 months of revenue coming in. So again, those are on track. It depends on the lag time coming in. I do want to point out under other revenues, we've actually brought in quite a bit more than what we originally budgeted for. That is because we signed an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding with the county, that they would pay $120,000 of the repairs on 14th Street. We did a joint project. So the city paid for a portion and the county paid for the other portion to finish that road. I just thought that was an important one to mention. And then, again, in general, overall, this budget's looking really good. If we're looking at a mid-year instead of writing it all out, we're assuming or looking at about $135,000 more in revenue. Expenses about $149,000. So in the street fund, we're looking at a decrease of about $14,000. And again, the breakdown of what those are included in your packet. Okay, so then our last one, our next page, is our enterprise fund, which is our wastewater fund. In here, again, with sewer revenue that's coming in, the sewer has a 1 month lag time. Again, but we're sitting at 50.6%. So we're actually bringing in more revenue than we originally thought. This has to do with the last few years, council's really worked on making sure with our revenue collections and the way that we've changed that we put it in the owner's names. So this is the proof that this worked because, again, we put in conservative numbers to make sure that we were meeting our marks. But as we can tell, we're actually bringing in more than what we originally predicted. So the measures that council has put forth on collections is working. So this fund is paying for itself now and the revenues is starting to come in. The only other one I kind of want to throw off a little bit is you do see under services and supplies, it's only 18.5%. The main reason for that is our largest bill is from Linda County Water District. There's always a lag time of when we get that invoice. I have been in contact with them several times in the past few months asking for where our newest invoice is. They need to finish their audit, and when they get done with their audit, then we tend to get our invoice. So this does not include any payments yet to Linda County. The total for that, I think, is around $1.2 million a year that we pay for them. So again, I'm in constant contact. He says I'm the only person who asked for an invoice from them, but I want to make sure that it gets paid. So that's why it's low there. It will be caught up once we start getting all those invoices. So when it comes to the enterprise fund, this one's pretty simple for mid-year. We're looking at about an extra $50,000 in revenue, expenditures about $47,000, so increasing of $3,000. Really stable account, things going really well. So that is our enterprise fund, and then I know there's a lot of information, but overall that is the overall presentation for where we're at halfway through the year, plus mid-year
thought that was a terrific presentation. Very well presented. Very well presented. Thank you.
Might I make one comment?
Sir.
Our challenge currently is not with our budget. Our challenge is likely that big green spot on one of the slides that showed we haven't spent money on capital projects. We got a lot of projects to do and execute on. So that's where I think our major challenge is this next few months.
If I can follow up.
And that'll be funded from the reserves?
Correct. It is through the reserves. That was either through Measure C or the remaining ARPA funds that we do have. And those are projects, too, that if they're not done in this fiscal year, because it is money in the reserves, if a street project's not finished or another project, you will see those amounts come back in next year's budget. So we're still committed to get them done. They just might not all be done in this current fiscal year.
And I think the ones we want to pay most attention to aren't the ones that are coming out of our reserves. It's the ones that may be coming from grant funding with deadlines. So we've been spending quite a bit of time, our public works director, our city engineer, and myself, trying to get our hands around all that.
Do we have a current amount left on our ARP funds?
Our ARPA funds?
Yeah, ARPA.
Correct. So we received just over $3 million. Right now we have spent, I just did it the other day, it was just over $1 million is what we've spent.
Any questions or comments? What's the will of the council?
I'll make a motion.
Motion approved.
To approve.
Second?
I'll second it.
And seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. Thanks again, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer.
I'm up for the next one, so I'm going to stay up here.
You're not going anywhere. Okay. We now have make sure I'm not missing anything here, a public hearing. And when you get to a public hearing, a formal public hearing, it will be acted on individually. And as with other matters on the agenda, members of the public may request to speak. If you're here, you can get a speaker's card from the city clerk. If you're online, you can raise your hand and you will be recognized in order. The matter for public hearing is item number 9, performance update and closeout documentation for the 2020 Community Development Block Grant CDBG contract 20-CDBG-CV2-3-00004. Recommendation, pass a motion to have the council conduct a public hearing and accept public comment on the final expenditures and program performance for the 2020 Community Development Block Grant totaling $416,772 for a dine-in-home program, and direct the city manager to submit the proper documentation to the Department of Housing and Community Development and to disencumber any remaining grant dollars. Madam Finance Director.
Okay, so again, welcome. We're back here. So I'm not going to repeat the whole title again since the mayor just went through it. But what we're doing is we're having a public hearing for the CDBG project. So per the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, or CARES as we all know, the city was awarded around $416,000 in October of 2021 for a dine-in program. And that was to help prevent, prepare for, and respond to coronavirus, the COVID-19 pandemic. So we ended up working with Freed, who is a company, a Disability and Aging Resource Center, to serve the needs of the community. So I do have Janique Lee here. I'm going to go through the list, but if you do have any follow-up questions, we do have someone from a representative from Freed. But I'm just going to go through the bullet points that were provided from them to go through what the program is. So I am going to read these because they were not my bullet points.
So we're closing out a program.
We're closing out a program, and this is our requirement is to come to the council and tell you what the program did.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment?
We do not, Mayor.
We do not. Members of the council, any comments or questions? What is the will of the council?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve?
Yes.
We're good.
Does this meet have we met our requirement for public hearing?
Technically, during the public hearing, I should at least mention the accomplishments that were done for the program.
We should what?
The accomplishments that were in the program is something that we are supposed to acknowledge.
We want to make sure.
It'll be a few quick bullet points for you guys.
No. If it's required, then let's please do it.
Yeah, I would hate for them to actually listen to it and then come back to me and tell me that I didn't fulfill anything, and then we'd have to come back. So
I was getting in a hurry, and I apologize for that.
It's okay. So I'm just going to read through the bullet points again. We'll get through them pretty fast. So 104 total individuals were served. They were expecting to serve 49. So the funding allowed for the continuation of services that began during the pandemic to support individuals with disabilities and older adults to get nutritious food while they were sheltering at home. It did benefit 6 local restaurants, which was Labras Mexican, Labras's, sorry, I may have said that incorrect, I apologize, Mexican restaurant, Pete's Diner, 2 Bits Express, 2 Bits Cafe, Tracy's Diner, and Linda's Soda Bar and Grill. So these are local restaurants either in Marysville or in Yuba City. So this funding also allowed for younger individuals to be served with the same functional needs. So basically 25% of the individuals who were served with this program were younger individuals with disabilities. So they did have a challenge to actually get consumers to get to the restaurants to get the meals because it was $20 per month. So what they ended up doing is when things opened up and they couldn't do takeout anymore, they actually worked with, I did not know this, there's a nonprofit arm of DoorDash to actually deliver the meals. So even if people were not able to actually go to the restaurants, there was a delivery service to make sure that the individuals were covered. So overall, that was a success because they found a way to actually get the meals in, and they did serve more people than they originally expected. So I do have to say that with this program that came to an end in October of 2023, around $165,000 of the total amount was spent on the grant, which means that the remaining $226,000 is to be disencumbered, which basically means nobody got the money. It's just to be released back to the state for future CDBG projects. So that's what you're approving tonight is the accomplishments and then allowing the state to take that money back to repurpose to another future grant for anybody who applies within the state.
So I'm guessing keeping the money is not an option.
No, it was again
Don't
like
ask.
You have to ask. It's like every grant that we have is a reimbursable grant. So the city has to upfront, we get reimbursed later.
I get it.
Yeah, it would be kind of nice, but no, we have to say thank you, but no thank you. So that overall summarizes my presentation. Thank you very much.
I apologize for cutting you off.
Oh, you're good.
Madam Clerk, any speakers?
Not tonight, Mayor.
Okay, we'd opened public hearing, closed public hearing. Council, questions or comments? Noting none, what is the will of the council?
Make a motion to
Thank you, sir.
do what needs to be done.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, Madam Clerk. Thanks again, Jennifer. Committee reports and comments, requests. We'll start with Councilman Hudson.
Excuse me. I have no real committee reports. As for comments, BOK-KAI is coming up. Looking forward to those events. Curious to see what's going to happen with the other things that have come about. Conversations later. I'd like to thank staff and everybody for getting 10th and Simpson Lane intersection working again. That was awesome. Good work on that. Last comment before I close out. I sent out an email and a text to all the other fellow council members about the BMLC trip to San Antonio. Nobody else jumped on that, so I jumped on that. And I will be going to San Antonio, Texas at the end of this month. At the 1st of April, 3rd and 4th.
Joint Base San Antonio.
So that being said, I will not be here for the first council in April because I will be on a plane. Other than that, thank you for all the hard work you guys have done. Jennifer, good work with Budge. Always love being corrected on that. Thank you for everything, everybody.
Councilman Gilchrist.
I have no committee reports this council, but I would like to thank city staff. Vincenzo, thank you for the lighting update. That's awesome. Thank you, Chief Hagstrom. Thank you, Chief Sachs. Thank you, Nicole Moe, for making our job really easy. Thank you, Dan Flores, for all the amazing successes going on in research, which we'll, of course, review later. And Jennifer, thank you for that amazing My mic isn't on now. Jim Shedd, thank you very much for your excellent city management.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
I have no committee reports, but I would like to say that was Gordon Tone's presentation was quite interesting, and I've been here for a long time, and I didn't know most of that stuff, so that was really great. Jennifer, I thought you did a wonderful job on it. You really condensed it well. I know that's probably not easy, but you did it well. So, and I look forward to the parade this weekend. I think we're going to be doing something in it. So,
yeah, four quick things to share. One, this last weekend there was a event at Bryant Field by a group called One Hope for America. Evangelism crusade event. Probably between 800 and 1,000 people each night. They had 800 seats in a tent, and it was packed every night that I was there. So it was on the training zone, asset to the community.
Next week. Forward to that. Yeah, the event at Bryant Field. I was taking a walk the Saturday before, week before, and encountered three people on the corner of 3rd and D by the clock, the rotary clock, and they all blessed me. It was touching. It was wonderful. I did not make it to the training zone. I can't stop saying wonderful things about people like have invested so much in this community, and they move out of a perfectly fine facility at 5th and D and move over to J Street, I guess it is, and open a world-class facility. I belong to some fine gyms around the country. Equinox gyms, best gym, they have a global reputation, and this is on par with the finest gyms I've ever seen. So fortunate to have people like that in our community, what they produce. Chief Ekstrom, always good to see you here. Chief Sachs, I'm always happy you're here. Staff and everyone. Anyway, thank you all. Madam Clerk, any council correspondence?
Not for this meeting, Mayor.
Mr. City Manager.
Just, thank you. Just one thing. Mr. Community Development Director, what do we call Bryant Field?
Sorry, we call it our Outdoor Convention Center. So, Marysville Outdoor Convention Center.
Our first foray into the convention business was a success with the event. We did have a little bit of turf concerns, but Dan was out there. I didn't even know he was out there this morning with Rich Hennings looking it over and making sure we're going to be ready for baseball. So that was good. The other thing I'll mention is today I think I sent all council members the results of our code enforcement activity on 18th and the subsequent purchase of the property, and that gentleman is going to put that property back into productive use. I told the chief I wanted to move to the next one, and that was in the Bub Street area. And he came back to me and told me it was already taken care of. So that was another really bad area that we received lots of complaints on. And
I can vouch for that.
Yeah,
that's my neighbor right behind me that has called 30 times, and the place looked great. If you guys had that cleaned out.
And I think we may have that one turned around and flipped. So that's good news. That's all I had.
Quick comment following up on that. Dan, pardon me, Councilman Belzer, you said it was seating for 800, that event. I saw the tent. It looked like the tent occupied basically left field.
Left field, correct.
But it was outside the infield, before the fence. It looked like it went from the foul line most of the way to center field.
Yes.
Held 800. Well, that says a lot about the upside for events at that facility.
It was an amazing event. I was able to attend, and it was full of energy, and it was great seeing the young people represented from Yuba-Sutter counties. You know, without alcohol, without drugs, without.
Oh yeah.
It was just really good. Yeah.
But I'm thinking exactly, and I don't mean to skip over that,
Sure.
but I'm thinking about the potential fair weather events, concerts, what have you. 800, that means capacity there is significant. Exactly.
You know, even in a stormy weekend, there was a lot of people that stayed home but still had a great turnout there.
Yeah, that kind of event can fortify the sales pitch, Dan, don't you think? Exactly. Okay. Next regular meeting of council, Tuesday, March 19th, 6 p.m. We're adjourned.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties. Caring for elders or even yourself has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow with in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties.